Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Sales Remastered. I'm going to talk about the ROI of kindness, of just being kind. And I'm going to talk about this because not only does it help you improve your own self-confidence, your motivation, it sets a goal that you can aim for that's actually larger than you. It's bigger than yourself. And this is going to tell you the difference between those that just want to know the shortcut versus the others that want to know the entire map, right? Like they want to see everything as a whole. And I'm talking about that in a good way. I'm not talking about that in like with OCD or obsessive. Is just being thorough and really being in a different kind of mindset, right? And so the ROI of kindness, I put a post on my blog. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, go to salesremaster.com/blog. There's a link down below to the homepage where you can sign up for a free sales script. And by the way, I'm still getting notifications or emails saying that they signed up or you signed up and you're just not getting a copy of the script. If that's happened to you, email me to help@salesremastered and say, hey, I signed up for the script, I didn't get it. And what I'll do is I'll email you an attachment so that way you have it. Because I definitely want you to see what that script's about. And that's an act of kindness, right? Like that in itself is like, why would I even go through all that ordeal just to put some free content together to help out? And one of the main reasons is because I looked at the entire map. I didn't just want to know what the next step was, right? And so I'm gonna revisit that topic in just a second. But the reason why I want to go over the ROI, which stands for return on investment, because I think a lot of the things we do have some sort of intention behind it. All right, I think that all communications is a form of selling because all communications has purpose for it. Whether you want to have someone absorb your message or agree with your message or comply with your message or buy your message, there is an intent behind the message, right? And so I want you to think about that because it goes hand in hand with thinking about kindness. And so I did a blog post yesterday, and what it had to do with was my experience. Literally right then and there, after I sent the email to this person, I immediately opened up another email and I started collecting thoughts on a blog post. And what happened was, for those of you who don't know, I manage a sales team for a national size company. There is another team out in Tempe, Arizona, and one of the young ladies there, she's doing very well in both the purchase market and also refinance market. And some people just adapt very well, and she's doing that. And so what I did was this email gets sent out by our vice president of sales, goes out to the whole company. And then what I did was I forwarded that directly to her. I didn't reply back and put all, this is just, I'm opening up a DM, right? I'm opening up a direct message dialogue. And what happened was that, she's not on my team. We've never even met. I didn't have to, right? Because we don't necessarily know each other. But what I did was I reached out and just forwarded a straight email. It took me literally 30 seconds to type up a message like, hey lady, I see you, keep crushing it. Thanks for doing what you do. You inspire me and my team. That's it. And I hit send. And what happened was she replied back, of course, saying, oh, thank you so much. I'm going to be there next week, end of next month. And I can't wait to meet you. I'm like, okay, cool. That's awesome. Blah, blah, blah. So we start chopping it up. We open up a dialogue. And what happens is I now have an opportunity because I've infiltrated her inbox and I've stood out and made noise in a different way that I now have dialogue with this person. Before, just literally 30 seconds before that, we didn't even know each other. We've never spoken to each other. We've never communicated to each other. And now I have the opportunity to reference that act of kindness, right? Like, hey, you know what? If you remember me, my name's Daniel. I reached out to you. I said, I gave you a shout out for crushing it out in Tempe. I mentioned you inspire me and my team. And so now next month, now that I learned that she's going to be there, I'm going to have her sit with some of my people, some of my team, right? Maybe my whole entire team, because now I have that relationship. I have that dialogue, right? And so she's going to be down there. I can go ahead and have her come over and sit with my team and ask her a few questions, be like, hey, what is your secret? Because there's a thing where, some people just need to hear it from other people. It's weird, right? like my team, for example. I could say one thing, but if someone on my team who's not, let's say, an authority, right, like just a companion or a cube mate, if they mention it, then it's looked at in a different light, and that's okay. I get it. I understand it. It's like the difference between your parents telling you something versus your brother telling you something. You just take it in different contexts. And so what happened was that, by opening up that dialogue, I thought about it. I was like, man, it's so easy. I wonder how many of us are actually doing this on a salesman level. And I referenced back to whether I did that, when I was a salesman, and abso-fucking-lutely I did, because I understood that was my warp zone. That was literally my 99 lives, right? That was my direct path. Like, I figured out kind of just a shortcut route, right? And I was like, hey, you know what? Instead of me figuring this out on my own and going through 1,000 attempts of trial and error, let me just ask you how you did it. Let me just go to you and go through you and, and understand how you did it. And, that whatever they told me, I executed. But not only that, I also studied as to why it works. And now fast forward all the way up till now, right? The act of kindness, I'm still giving that extra. If you look back, I mean, this brand's been around for, almost a year now, and I've been consistently putting out content. And the truth of it is that I didn't necessarily have to, right? Like, I don't need to. There's a ton of top producers, I'm sure, that are better than me, but they're not sharing this information. And there goes this kind of just this community, this group of either novices, intermediate, or experts, or people who may have had a good run, but maybe their run isn't as strong as it once was. And then you got newer people coming into a different climate, and they need help and they need guidance. But what's happening is all the closers and sellers in their area are now pocketed up, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's cliques, there's certain groups, and people hate, and you got that worry of judgment, criticism, critiquing, being used, right? And so there's just a lot of these emotions, and sometimes you just need an answer. You need a resource. You need to let something play in the background that's going to motivate you, remind you, and push you the fuck forward. Push you forward so that you have no reason to go into the office demoralized, right? Or just kind of deflated. And so why I bring this up is because this act of kindness actually keeps you going. What's funny is that when you give more than you expect in return, you learn not only so much about yourself, but you learn so much about other people. You learn about what is their issue. You see through their eyes. You kind of empathize with them, and sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes you're just like, wait, what? How the fuck can you not figure that out? But at the same time, I'm sure doctors feel that way, right? Like, doctors and cops probably feel that way and shit, and firemen probably feel that way. Like, what the fuck were you thinking? But they keep doing their duty, and they save the day. And I'm not saying I'm a fucking firefighter. Well, yeah, I am a firefighter, because that's all we do in sales, right? Is we put out fires, or sales management at least, and customer service calls. And I'm a producing manager, so I'm a little bit different. But when it comes to the act of kindness, that's ROI. For example, today right now, I'm doing a meeting with a broker who in Orange, in the city of Orange, and I'm doing a meeting where I'm doing a 90-minute speech, or I guess keynote. Hell, I don't even know what the fuck it's called. Shit, where you have a big screen, and you got a slide deck and a whole keynote presentation. And, I was approached by someone who I've known for 10 years. They saw me putting out content, and he started this broker shop out of the city of Orange. And so he's like, hey, man, I got people coming from out of state, Florida, Texas, and California, to come and see, a few speakers. And I'd like to know if you'd like to speak. I like your enthusiasm. Can you help us understand, even though it's somewhat of a little bit of a different world, right? Retail to wholesale. Those of you who work in real estate, you understand what I'm talking about. But he found some of the content to be encouraging, motivating, and just a different wavelength. It's a different sound, right? Sales Remastered is a completely new way of selling. Sales Remastered is it's helping versus qualifying, right? It's collaborating versus pitching. So there's just a difference. It's basically EQ selling. It's emotional intelligence, using emotional intelligence to motivate, influence, and persuade the other person to buy your message. And it doesn't just work on clients, right? It works on your coworkers, your operations, your sales manager, your executives, your wife, your kids. This is the new sales. Sales is communication, and this is just completely remastered. It's identifying what actually makes the decision from the party that you're trying to make, get the decision from. And so anyway, long story short, he reaches out to me and he asked me to come and speak. And so I'm not even charging him. I'm doing it completely for free. It's Saturday, right? It's at 11 a.m. Of course, I have opportunities. I got another chance to go do something else or choose to opt to spend time with my kids because I work all week, right? But again, going back to the reference of positioning, right? Like, you have to put yourself in the way of being successful. You have to kind of put yourself in that crossroad. You have to position yourself. If you want to upgrade your life, you have to put yourself in a position where that can happen, right? And so, for example, when I wanted to make six figures so bad, like, I couldn't figure it out, and I was upset, and I'm like, hey man, how are these people fucking doing it? How are they making 5 figures a month, and I'm over here busting my ass to do it? And of course, after going through some mentorship, I figured it out. And in all reality, it was just through repetition. It was if I wanted to basically have something I've never had, I need to learn how to do something I've never done, and literally put myself out there. And so one little switch that I did was I just basically went from selling to consulting. That's it. So I went from salesman to professional. I went from salesman to consulting. When I say consultant, I think about lawyer, think about an attorney, think about a doctor, right? Or think about like a CPA, or think about a contractor who fixes your house or does your roof. To your view, or to you, they are the subject matter expert. They are the specialist, right? And we seek them out. We look to them for the answers. And there's something about it when you talk to a consultant versus a sales rep. When you talk to a consultant, you absorb the information that consultant gives you. When you talk to a sales rep, you take it with a grain of salt, right? Like, this motherfucker's trying to, and the tone is completely different too. And so that's probably the best analogy that I have for you right now. If I come up with better ones, I'll let you know. But anyway, I'm speaking in front of this group for 90 minutes, and I've never put a keynote slide together. I've never spoken to anyone outside of, well, actually, no, I scratched. I've only spoken to a small group. It was a 20-30 minute group for a buddy of mine for his sales team. And it was very quick, right? It was very improv. It was right off the bat. Didn't expect to do the meeting, but got thrown right in, and it went very well. Threw out some nuggets of gold, and so in this particular case, I've never done that. So I'm gonna speak in front of about maybe 20, 30 people, and I'm gonna have a keynote. I got one of them clickers now, and I've never hooked up, my MacBook to a TV to do a full blown presentation. I've never. Like, I've never done this, but why? Why the fuck am I doing it? And why am I doing it for free, right? Well, the reason for it is because I'm positioning myself to succeed and to brand myself in this community and leave my own digital footprint, if you will, in this world. And I think that with the upside of having all the mentoring and the mentors that I've had along my journey, what I learned way back when I started was that repetition is key, right? That's it. Just repetition is key. In other words, hustle will help you catch it, but practice and repetition will help you keep it. Okay, so now I'm referencing to the calls, right? Like, I couldn't figure out how they're making 5K, and what they said was like, hey bro, just keep going it. You'll find your voice. You'll understand what roadblocks are going to come ahead, and you're going to change your tone. You're going to change your tone from a salesman to a skilled expert or a consultant, because you already know what their objections are, but you're not going to know it until you keep doing it. So just keep doing it. And so I just dove in, right? And just fucking scrapes, bruises. I was unaware of the LOS. I was unaware of the CRM. I had no fucking idea of what the script was. I used my ignorance and my humility and all that to just put me in the open. And did I fuck up? Absolutely. Was I laughed at? Absolutely. Was I stuck? Felt awkward? Felt humiliated? Felt fucking shitted on and stepped on? Absolutely. And after a while, they were true. After a while, I became better. I started knowing what was on that level. I started figuring out what objections would happen, how their tones were, and what kind of individuals they were, because what job they did or their work title. And I started picking up on all these other things where I could see it 10 steps ahead versus just being worried about the next step. And so at the beginning of this video, when I said some people worry about just the next step, others want to know what the whole map's like. It's because when you become an expert, you know the landscape of the terrain. You understand your scenery, right? Whereas you just want to know the next step. It's like, I just want to know where the fucking bathroom is. All right, bro. Well, when you get out of that bathroom, how are you going to venture through the landscape of the terrain, right? Or go out through life? And so where I found success, and where I think you will too, is when you throw yourself into the awkwardness. When I go in front of this group, they don't know how new I am. They don't know how awkward it's going to feel unless I let them know. And the funny thing is, a lot of them are going to come back and see this video today, on Saturday, the 20th. You're going to come back and be like, damn, man, this is crazy. This was right before. But the key thing is, though, is that I've been doing it for 10 months. So technically, I've kind of been improving and figuring out. So when you look at my content, you'll notice that I don't edit. I literally shoot the video right when I get to a computer, I upload it. There's nothing, there's no editing, there's no judging, right? There's like sometimes I even get comments on the video. I'm like, hey bro, the audio wasn't recorded. And I'm like, fuck, and it's been on there for a whole day. I got like 900 views and one person, or 990 views, and one person be like, hey bro, there's no audio. So just me going, some people might say, oh, but D, you got to be more careful and blah, blah, blah. I'm still in my scrapes and bruises phase, though. I'm just throwing myself, engulfing myself in the awkwardness. I'm training myself to improve by force, right? Like I have no choice. And so if I get a comment and saying, hey bro, like yesterday I uploaded a video and I noticed at the very beginning it said that it was the 18th. Well, yesterday was the fucking 19th. And I had a choice, right? I could have been like, oh fuck, like, nah, I gotta edit it, I gotta blah blah blah. But I kept it because I want to show you that I'm just like you. I'm not fucking perfect. All I'm doing is throwing myself in a position where I'm not in my comfort zone, and I will grow. And so you'll see the video. So when you see it, you look at it and be like, yeah, this motherfucker okay. But then again, who knows? I might fuck up. I might completely fall on my face, just completely lose my words. There are so many variables. It's kind of like when you go into a call, right? It's like a salesman. It's like, oh my God, what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? And the funny thing is that I'm so experienced that I just understand that that's just my head, because I've gone through this shit. The shit that I teach you, I'm preaching it, right? Like, just fucking do it. What the fuck do you have to lose? You either learn, right? You either learn or you win. You either learn or you close that deal. You either learn or you get that social security number, right? And so you don't know until you go through it and you figure out and you go through that trial and error. And, and I've been through that trial and error. So fortunately, I'm able to, to document it now. And you look back from the very first beginning of the video to the videos now, I'm not saying 1,000 times, right? Sometimes I am, though, because either I didn't have my coffee. So once in a blue moon, there it goes again, right? Like, sometimes it'll come out. But what I'm getting at is, if you compare it to the videos just 9 months ago, it's different. It's just improving, right? It's getting better, if I don't say so myself. And so I'm getting contacted by a lot of loan officers and those who want personal direct coaching. If that sounds like something that you want, please look at the notes below, right? And then there's an email that says help@salesremastered, and you can email me. I'll be more than happy to reply back. Sometimes I don't reply back in the very first day. I'm getting a lot of messages, a lot of inquiries, a lot of topics, and I love it. I appreciate you. It's because I know that you have been watching, you've been investing your time towards this direction, and my goal is to help increase your ROI, starting with the ROI of kindness. So go the extra mile. You know, doing that little extra is literally a sales closer's secret weapon, and you'll discover why when you engulf yourself in the content at Sales Remastered. If this is your first time watching, please consider subscribing, hit that bell, and you'll be notified of the topics beforehand, live, right then and there. And if you haven't checked out the Facebook or the Instagram, I'll leave links below these notes. But definitely check out that sales script, salesremaster.com. In order to increase your chances of getting it right away, you want to use a personal email. Don't use a work email. I don't want to go into a spam folder, so use your personal email, maybe an email that you could check immediately on your phone, and that way you'll have it whenever and wherever you are on your cell phone. So you just open it up and just read through the lines, and you'll guide that prospect to where they need to be, which is your pipeline. I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Get a chance to share some time with you for the next 90 minutes and share with you a different perspective over the information that you've probably already absorbed today and also yesterday. I had a chance to listen in on the gentleman who was just speaking, and somewhat the topics are around the same, but it's going to give you a different perspective on how to influence those who you engage with on a different level from the traditional, like best practice of approaching a realtor, or best practice of originating leads, things like that. But more importantly, a way you can utilize it towards operations, from communicating with Andrew to processing to underwriting and affiliates that you work with. And so my name is Daniel Niekart. I have a brand called Sales Remastered, and the reason why I use a hashtag is because it's mainly on social media. And hashtags today, as you know, is very useful because it creates a link. And so, for example, if you were to Google search hashtag Sales Remastered, you would actually see any posts affiliated with me. And this is on any social platform: LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. And what it shows you is a different way to spread content and share content. And what I mean by that is it's almost like, you don't necessarily need to be there in person to share a message. You would just ask someone, hey, yeah, search Sales Remastered. You'll get a whole gist of different content. And essentially what I'm going to share with you guys is, depending on how long you've been in this business or how long you've been in sales in general, the opportunities that we have in front of us, the capabilities that we have in front of us, is far different from the old days of cold calling. There's no such thing as cold calling anymore. I come from that background of cold calling, from having just who remembers title leads? Like just a printout of title leads, and you call them one by one, right? Hoping someone answers. And now we find ourselves in a different position where we can actually study our opponent. We can gather some intel on those that we approach and come better equipped, right? So we can learn about our prospects. We can learn about what they do for work, of where they live, their lifestyles are. And it's because they share a common thread, which is social media. I'm going to fly by some of these slides. Number one, because I think that a lot of the content you probably already covered over the last couple of days. And I really want to jump into Q&A, because I think that is where the value comes from. I want to give an opportunity to express and share with you the common concerns that I see as a sales manager. I'm a producing sales manager. So I produce, I originate loans, and I also manage a team. I manage a team for a multi-billion-dollar national retail outfit called New American Funding. We're all across the nation, and we are heavily embedded into outside realtor referral business. And I'm going to share with you some of the tactics and techniques that I see top producers using, and in hopes that you can adopt some of these strategies and find a way to make it your own. So, the topics that we're going to cover in today's meeting, of course, Sales Remaster. I'm going to cover some sales techniques with you guys. Everything from wordplay and scripting / copy. Copy is like texting, sales through words, right? Like an email or a text. It's a specific way that you actually word that follow-up. Networking and follow-up plan. How to create a sales engine. A sales engine is referring to all of the key components that you have to generate a sale. Think of your pipeline as a conveyor belt. And you put a prospect on the conveyor belt, and it goes through certain stations, right? Credit report, then it goes through title, then it goes through escrow, then it goes through underwriting. And so each one has its own specific component, but it's understanding the sequence of events so that you are better prepared to hand that baton off to the next station confidently. because the last thing you want to do is babysit your entire pipeline, right? You're not going to leave any opportunity to continue generating. And that is what's going to set you apart, is your constant creativity in your originating efforts. You have to attract business versus chase it. And I'm going to show you some methods on how to attract it, okay? Besides that, lead generation, as I mentioned, attraction, branding and networking techniques, generate leads via social media, leveraging insider information. And then we're going to go a little bit into mindset development. I heard the gentleman talk about mindset, and I'm going to share with you some of my experience from the habits of champions that I see within this industry and also other industries. How to create and keep the momentum. The sales, the industry in itself is very, it's a dog eat dog world, right? It's the survival of the fittest, and it's like a bunch of businesses that they're protecting their clientele, their customer, and they'll do everything and anything to put your business behind them. And so when we understand that emotional state, then we understand how to approach that same audience just in a different way, right? In a remastered way, if you will. Besides that, we're going to cover how to love the grind. As I mentioned, it is a dog-eat-dog world, and sometimes it is very easy to become unmotivated, right? You detach from the sequence because it's easier to shy away from things that seem like a grind. And so I'm going to show you how to reframe your perception on this sales grind and turn it into a sales game, like it's a game. And then, of course, the true ROI of building a book of business. We're going to cover, the prospects that you talk to right now. You have to, besides it being a sale, you have to look at it as fostering a relationship because they become part of your network. If you have a strong, solid network, if you think about the billion-dollar companies, the millionaires, the CEOs that are doing successful now, it is because they have a strong network. They have a network of VPs, of sales managers, of sales agents. Does that make sense? That's their network. And you have the ability to do so without a brick-and-mortar location. This can all be done through internet access, right? And you can now create a network that it operates like an engine. Probably asking yourself right now, who the fuck are you, bro? All right. So I put it up there, and I purposely did this. This is, by the way, is probably the mainstream way if you work in corporate America to not get caught off by the email filters, right? Where it gets flagged and it goes to HR and it goes to, right? And then you get caught up in like, hey, we picked up this email because you used a 4-letter word. And what that is, it's just a sign of adaptation, right? It's a sign of you figuring out kind of the way it works, which the FUCK would be brought up or maybe filtered to put you in trouble. And so you adapt and you just do it a different way, right? Well, at the same time, we can use that kind of thesis or that philosophy and apply it towards our originating efforts, the ways that we sell. So I'm going to share with you, I'm going to answer this question. I myself, I've been in sales for over 20 years. I'm fairly young now. I used to be the youngest one in the room. Now I noticed that I'm becoming a little bit more seasoned. So I've been in sales for over 2 decades, 15 of which have been in mortgage loan origination. So this is my playground. I love it. And it's a grind. And I put in 12 to 14 hours just like I'm sure the rest of you guys do. But I've been able to develop a mindset that turned it into a game, right? It's not a grind anymore. It's something that you love. It's something that you are passionate about. 3 years consecutive named top MLO in the company, MLO, mortgage loan officer, right? I came from a background, does any of you remember AmeriQuest? Okay, second to Countrywide. They were one of the largest subprime lenders in the nation. That's actually where I started out from. I started out as a telemarketer and had no intentions to go into being a loan officer. I was actually doing part-time telemarketing work from there and also selling accounts for AT&T. And as a telemarketer for AmeriQuest, one of the things you had to do was take a 1003. This is before the days of licensing. So we're able to talk about income, we're able to talk about credit, we're able to ask for the Social Security number. And getting the Social Security number as a telemarketer was, of course, difficult because that's some very sensitive information, but I had a gift for it. I was able to do it very, very easily. And what I noticed that at the time when I became a telemarketer, I was only 21 years old at the time, I looked nothing like I looked like now. I was bald, I had earrings, I was still sagging my pants. I looked like a thug. And I came into corporate America as the underdog. And the way I grew up, and if you guys see any of my content online, I share with you some of my backstory. But where I had my advantage was that over the phone, they did not know who I was. They did not know that I was bald-headed. They did not know that I was 20 years old. I remember doing a application for the first time, and they had a drop-down box next to the payment. It said PI, PIT, PITI. That was one of the options, right? When I actually, for the first time reading it, this is how immature I was or inexperienced I was. I asked what their payment was. They would say $1,000, and I'd say, okay, was that pi, pit, or pity? And they wouldn't understand. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Is it pi, pit, or pity? I didn't know that was an abbreviation. I thought it was just reading like which one of these options. I hope they're catching it on. But what I did learn was that even if you are inexperienced and even if you are brand new, your enthusiasm is what sells you, right? It's not who knows what or who knows who. And that's why sometimes we see newer people come inside of our atmosphere or our environment and they excel. They excel faster than those who are even seasoned. And it's because it's a new concept to them. It's like, if you ever had a friend or a family member or even a wife or a husband, they come to you, oh man, you know what I found out? It's that, what? Right? It's like they have that, they learned all kinds of abbreviations, a new language, and it's exciting, right? And I think that's what helps them stand out. But besides that, in 2017, for last year, I was actually named the top sales manager for the entire company of New American Funding. My agents, my team, they have the highest closed sales or amount of units per agent. This is compared to all of the branches and all of the teams across the nation. And when I got that reward, I did not take credit for it. I put it back on them because it was them who executed. It was them who brought in the right attitude. They brought in the right mindset. They were being creative versus looking for people to point blame at, right? Where everyone else could say, oh, they're winning because they work for that team, or they're winning because they're getting those leads. They owned up to it, figured out a system, put it in place, and now they're reaping the rewards, right? And so fortunately, we were able to enter in, all of us, every single one on the team, entered into the top 1% income of the nation. Now, granted, that's only 375, so a lot of people think, oh, it's got to be $2 million, $1 million. No, actually, literally, it's a way of marketing, right? Top 1% of the nation sounds better than, we just clocked or made over 350,000. It's just it's a reframing. And so that's a lot of the thesis that we're going to cover here is just a different way to make noise, a different way to say the same thing. Besides that, of course, content creator for Sales Remastered. In February of last year, I established the brand Sales Remastered, and I produce content to keep loan officers motivated, keep you informed, keep you ahead of the curve, and letting you know what works. So I invite you, if you are on any of the platforms that we covered today, and I'll give you the links, I invite you to check out the content. And if you like it, please subscribe and follow. Besides that, I'm a fellow salesman. As I'd mentioned, I'm a producing sales manager, meaning I don't just manage a sales team, I produce along with them. So I have insight. I'm not going to share with you information that worked back in '92. All right. And then, so starting off with regards to the motive. The motive and opportunity that we have in front of us right now, as I mentioned, we have the use of technology, of social media, of past pipelines, whether it's Andrew's pipeline or your realtor associate's pipeline. You have a different way to access and maintain and manage these pockets of your network that ends up giving you back business. And it becomes difficult and overwhelming because we don't know where to start sometimes, right? We have a lot of fear going in regards to, well, I don't want to mess up, or I don't want to, overpromise and underdeliver. And a lot of the times it's just us. It's a lot of the fears or roadblocks that we put in our way are actually internal, right? It's not true. And I'm a firm believer that so long as you focus on the reason why you do what you do, then there's not going to be anything that's going to stop you from becoming the best at what you do. Does that make sense? You just really need to want it. And so we have, even on my sales floor, which I have over 200 sales agents on the same sales floor, it's just loud. It's a bullpen environment. Cubicles around this size. It's very boiler room-ish, right? But we're legit, So don't put two and two together. But it's just a big room of motivated salespeople. And then you have a pocket of some salespeople who are not as motivated as such. And I've been able to distinguish the two main factors, or at least two ingredients that the top producers share when compared to the other group. And I'm going to cover those two with you. The first one is the motive. The motive is why you do what you do every day, right? Why do we, instead of going towards let's say a standard operations job, right? Like when you see operations or the loan processors clock out at 5 and they go home, you're like, oh, I wish I could just do that, right? Like we look at the loan processors and be like, man, it's because of me you got a job, right? We almost look at it like that. I'm the one keeping you busy. Why do you get to clock out at 5 o'clock? I got to get back on the phone. So it's very much of a grind. So why do we do it? I think it's because we see the upside. But besides the upside, and besides the immediate relief, what I'm going to show you is how to figure out the true reason to continue pushing you even through the grind that you're going to face. Because again, it is a dog-eat-dog world out there. And so the motive in understanding why your factors, you have what's called layers. So I'm going to give you an example of what my layers are. You can apply your own layers, and if they're very similar to mine, then we're on the same wavelength, right? But just get the concept of understanding your layers of your why. And so if you were to ask me, well, why do you do what you do every day, Daniel? Well, I would tell you, I like the upside of the income and wealth creation. Real estate affords you the ability to make more than, let's say, someone else does in an entire year, you just 1 month of production. I've literally made someone's annual salary this month. That's the opportunity we have, right? And so I like that. That's one of my reasons. But if I peeled back the layer, well, Daniel, why do you like that? You know, why do you like making the money? Or why do you like the ability to create wealth? And I'll tell you, well, it gives me financial freedom, right? It gives me the ability to not necessarily worry if I'm going to make my bills the next month or the next quarter. It gives me the security knowing I have 1 year of liquid assets in my bank. I'm covered. If I don't produce for a month or 2 months or 3 months, I'm set. I'm good. I'm not operating under a different mindset, which is fear. If you ask me, well, why do you like all that stuff, Daniel? I'm going to tell you, well, I like the ability to provide and experience. What I mean by that is I love the ability to provide for my family. I'm a married man. I have 3 kids. I'm blessed to have a homemaker, a wife who stays home as a homemaker. I think she works way harder than I do. And I assure that because when I get home, I'm like, man, how do you put up with all this, you know? And it's my own kids. Yeah, right? Like, those are my kids. And I'm like, how do you put up with these people? You know, and that's just, I believe that without her balancing me and helping with the responsibilities, I would not be able to do what I do best, right? So we, as a unit, work together and we stick to our own lane, and that's what helps us mix well. But that's what I like to do. I like the ability to provide. I like to be the one who says, hey, daddy's got this. That's just me. And the experience of the better things in life, having the experience and ability to send my kids or take my family to where we want to go or send my kids to a school that they deserve, things like that. Well, Daniel, why do you want that? And I'm going to peel back another layer and I'm going to say, well, I like the quality of life that it gives. I enjoy the finer things in living. I like the luxurious options, right? I think that's one of the reasons why we use real estate versus going to sell cars. Well, okay, you want to be in sales. You know, Best Buy got salesmen. They probably got they don't got a quota like real estate agents, right? Like you're LO, if you don't produce, you're out, right? Your life changes in a minute and your pipeline doesn't get to follow you because they got retention departments to, protect that lead base. And so I enjoy the quality of life and the luxurious living. Well, Daniel, well, why do you like that? Well, I want to avoid the alternative. Where I came from, and I'm not asking for any pity or anything like this, I'm coming from a different mindset, a different background. As an underdog, I operate well under pressure. And I didn't have necessarily the same abilities or the luxuries of having a college degree. I didn't have the luxuries of being raised with good influences in my life. But I'm fortunate the way I grew up because I now have something to reference and now I understand the alternative. I can have my kids grow up in the environment that I came from, or I can have them grow up in an environment that I want them to. Does that make sense? This is the deeper reason why. And of course, that all circles around family, right? So deep down, at the layers after layers, the whole reason why I do what I do is for my family, right? Of course, the perks and the upsides, the trips and the rewards, the acknowledgments are all great, but at the end of the day, that's what pushes me. And it's mainly because of fear. We all have fears. This is what makes the job hard, right? My fear is that I don't have the ability to provide for my family the way I need to and the way I want to. So I invite you to try that on your own. Really think about why you do what you do. This is a common mindset that I see from top producers in the industry compared to someone who's just floating by, is because they have their priorities right and they understand what motivates them. This is the same group that finds the willpower to sacrifice a weekend. Come in on a Sunday, spend an extra 2 or 3 hours to master your craft so that you could build the engine that you want. It's understanding what pushes you. So again, going through what opportunities actually are before us, I mentioned you have the ability to earn an annual salary in 1 month. I know some of us may even think like, well, Daniel, I don't need to do that. I don't need 40 grand or 50 grand in 1 month. I mean, I'm pretty modest, right? I get by in 5, that's okay. And if you're thinking that way, that's, don't feel bad, but just consider a different way of viewing the opportunity. So even though you don't need it, go find a donation to give it away to, right? Stack it up and put it in your retirement. Use it to maybe invest in real estate. You're already plugged into the market, right? Use it to go buy Bitcoin. Who cares? Regardless, you just have to look beyond whether you need it or not. And it's about creating an engine that can feed itself, creating an engine that pays dividends, creating a network and establishing a brand. Now, that creates, of course, the automation of a six-figure income, which when you get your brand established or get your pipeline established and understand the stations of the conveyor belt, then you can let it operate on its own. You don't necessarily need to micromanage every single department. It's all about fostering the right relationships with these departments so they want to work for you, right? Not necessarily with you, but they want to work for you. They want to go above and beyond. And then, of course, building a book of business and branding yourself. This, depending on where you're at right now in your industry and in this career, whether you're just starting or you're somewhat established and you have somewhat of a network and you have past clients, of course, everyone is different. So I'm going to share with you just the key pieces of establishing on both. So even if you do have an established pipeline or established network, I'm going to show you how to build a new one or add to your current one.
Hey, Daniel, before we move
Yes.
to the next slide, can you go back on the multiple streams of income?
Yes.
Can you tell us how you diversify to the lender?
Absolutely. So when we engage with, this is from prospects, from realtors as well. When we engage with prospects, for example, I may come across someone who doesn't have the right FICO score yet, right? Like let's say I got a borrower with 520 and I need 580 for government, right? Well, there are affiliates, and when you build your own network, you become kind of just this resource person. Like, oh yeah, I can connect 2 and 2. Oh, you got to go talk to my guy, right? Or I got a person for you who can help you. And this becomes a different way of value versus coming in and selling someone, right? Now you're giving them a resource or an alternative which sticks within your network, your community. And so if I have, which I do, I have a credit repair agency that I send people to. They make their rip, give me a kickback, and then of course, then they send the client back to me. Does that make sense? So it's a referral finder's fee. It's like a $50 fee, and that's okay. I mean, it's $50, it adds up over time. And ultimately why I do that is because we have an agreement where that person comes back to me when the job is done. Right? So this is farming the lead for later. Whereas most loan officers will go into a situation, they'll say, hey, what's your FICO? 520? And then the whole enthusiasm dies, right? That's bad, though. That's almost greedy, and that's okay. I was like that too. You get on the phone, you start talking, and you're doing the 1003, and then you figure out they're self-employed, and then enthusiasm just goes one level lower, like, right? And then you figure out they got rental properties, and then it goes even lower, because what you're doing is you're thinking about the paperwork. Right? You're thinking about the grind. You're thinking about, oh man, the chances of this person even qualifying, right? I'm probably going to spend 40, 60 minutes with this person. They're not even going to have a deal. But when you change your perception, you figure out, hey, I'm going to bring this guy value because I know this person's networked with other real estate investors, or I know this person is affiliated with other, self-employed homeowners, entrepreneurs. And I look at it, instead of being a grind, I look at it as, hey, how can I get into that network? Because there are a lot of people who need my help. It's kind of like saying if you have a manufactured lender, right? Someone who entertains manufactured loans. There are not too many people or lenders who entertain manufactured homes. There's a lot of loan officers who simply do not pursue that business because they simply do not have the vendor or the relationship to deliver that service, right? So what if we took that opportunity and said, hey, I'll be the manufactured guy because I got the connection. Right? Well, how do I communicate to this community? How do I get my name out there? And that's the creativity in utilizing the different relationships, like the realtor relationships you have, right? Like if I found out and I can look it up through property profile, I can pull up a manufactured home, figure out when they bought it, get the paperwork from my escrow affiliates and title affiliates, figure out who is associated with that sale. Now I'm hitting up realtors who are probably associated with the broker who is representing a buyer or seller and saying, hey, you know what, I know you closed the manufactured home on Swallow Lane, and I just want to let you know that we have some new products in 2018 that entertains manufactured homes. Check out this link, and then this link is maybe a post that you put up on some sort of social media. And I'm going to dive into that because that is an opportunity to create a massive amount of leads for least amount of money. Okay, and I'm going to share with you guys, you don't necessarily need to make video content. You have options of doing audio, of doing posts, but then you just, you sometimes get stopped in your tracks because you're like, well, where do I start? Where do I go? Does that make sense? So the multiple streams of income are not just by that, they're also, referrals. What I personally like to look at every loan I do is another stream of income because I'm going to do that loan again in a year. I'm confident that I am. Right? Our clients refinance typically, every 12 to 18 months, regardless if they, bless you, regardless if they, have a lower rate already, right? And I'm going to dive into that too because it is a rate market. You know, it's more purchase than it is refinancing. And I'm going to share with you a strategy that's going to position you properly to entertain those 3.5, 30-year fixed borrowers who think that they don't need to refinance. So it's going to be good if ever. Does that answer your question? Multiple streams? Sure.